Welcome everyone. I'm Prasad Seth. I'm super excited to be here today. As we all know, coronavirus is already a global pandemic. Many software developers and IT professionals in general have already turned to work from home mode as the official guidelines is to stay home. There has been a large amount of change over the last couple of months due to the impact of COVID-19 on in-person events. As I have spent much of my last 6 years in either building, running, and being involved with community events, I thought I would share some of the tips and insights I have gained over this time on what you need to consider for going online. Today, I will talk about changing face of developer communities in the time of COVID-19, in which I will tell you how to transition from in-person open source events to virtual events and also about starting and scaling open source communities during the coronavirus season. It all draws upon from my personal experiences and from observing how other communities are tackling this issue. I'm Prasad Seth. I'm a passionate community builder, a tech speaker, tech evangelist, and a software developer. I'm passionate about evangelizing tech, meeting new developers, and helping in solving their problems. I've been a part of global communities, startups, and upskilling initiatives. I've personally seen the impact of my programs on thousands of people across multiple cities. Most of the tech companies have now figured out that building a community is very important because it helps them in spreading the use of their softwares or platforms. From many years, developers have always been community minded. According to the Evans Data Corporation survey, around 31% of developers say that they have improved the code quality when actively involved in a community. And around 77% of developers say that they have experienced reduction in time to implementation when actively involved in a community. And now, due to the pandemic, as more developers are spending more time online, we can say that hosting virtual events is the new normal. So let me first tell you some of the major benefits of hosting virtual events. First, it costs nothing. With a virtual event, organizers tend to save on logistical costs such as venue rental or other hospitality expenses such as food and refreshments, insurance, accommodation, which is of course applicable for a multi-day event such as a conference, and many other costs involved in organizing an in-person event. And if you are thinking about accessibility, then virtual events are more accessible than in-person events, with all the captioning and ease of attending from the comfort of your own setup. Virtual conferences can be quite powerful and scale to many thousands of attendees that would be very difficult to gather in person. And yes, online meetups and roundtables give your members an opportunity to have intimate discussions from the comfort of their home. Another important thing, you can now expand your meetup to a wider geography since physical barriers are not an issue. By running it online, your event becomes more accessible to a global audience. Organizers can now combat space constraints which they face while organizing in person events. So, by choosing a platform suitable for your event, you will be able to potentially house a bigger audience without the limitations of a physical space constraint. I feel online events are great to drive inclusivity. In person events usually take place in the evenings or at weekends and at venues that aren't always accessible to all. Such arrangements exclude people who face logistical or cultural difficulties in attending meetups. In online events, people can tune in from anywhere. On top of that, live captioning helps people who struggle with accents and speed of speech from various speakers, and thus your event can reach wider audience. Online events can have much wider reach than in-person events. Think of all the members you miss at in-person events because of schedules and budget costs. Think of students and international members. For example, one of the Global Developer Summit gathered around 1,000 people in person last year. They had spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on the event and worked on it year round. Now they are hosting a global summit, which will be free virtual conference, and it's estimated that they will have well around 3,000 people in attendance. And they have put this event together in just 1 month. But if you think from numbers standpoint, companies are able to drive more and more leads and grow their audience much more quickly than they do with an in-person event. So when a company allows the community to host virtual events, they can actually scale up a massive virtual content program quite fast. Now let me tell you how one can seamlessly switch from in-person events to virtual meetups. It is important to know that not all online event platforms are created equally, and not all will have the ability to host the event you want to run. So make sure you know exactly what functionality and support your platform provider offers, and find out the benefits and cons of each platform. Know your target audience, the demographic, how tech savvy they are, how familiar they are with newer technologies. All these will help you as an organizer to determine which platform to use. So choose a right platform for quick turnarounds and interactivity. And once you have decided a right platform, it is equally important to have a great moderator. Basically, someone who is welcoming and can foster an engaging and open atmosphere online. And not only the platform and moderator, focus on demand as well. I would recommend to think about where your on demand content will sit, how accessible it will be to rest of the community, and how you want to drive awareness of that great content sitting online. For events, you can now easily invite an overseas expert. This will help you to bring new expertise to local audiences, which you cannot do as easily with in-person events. And remember to be very kind about the time zone accommodations. Virtual meetups make it so much easier for your overseas experts to start connecting with local audiences. For example, at an in-person event, a speaker has time to meet a maximum of 15 people during the pizza time, while at virtual events, many people can direct message the speaker on a question that they have, or start saying hi on social media, and the relationship continues from there. With virtual events, it is important to think about carbon savings as well. And don't forget to include carbon savings into your success measures. By measuring carbon savings, you set good foundation for virtual meetups to become more of a norm as a long-term green initiative even after this pandemic fades out. Next, I'm going to tell you some of the guidelines to host a virtual event. It's not simple to host a virtual event. There are a lot of things to prepare for a virtual event. This is what I do before an online meetup. The most important thing is whenever you publish an event, your community members should be informed by email. And a good practice is to publish the event minimum 2 weeks before the event. You can publish the event on Meetup or any other platform you usually publish events on. After publishing the event, promote the event via a regular channel such as Twitter, LinkedIn, or anything else like a regular in-person event. If you are hosting an event with a partner, ask them to promote the online meetup. And due to any unavoidable circumstances, if you happen to cancel your event, you must notify about it to all the registered attendees. In the email and in event details as well, make it clear where to register for the online event. There may be technical challenges for your attendees. Make sure to give plenty of time and plenty of guidance on how to get set up with your tools and technology. You can also create content and guides specific for your event. And if you have planned the event with a remote employee or external partner, then schedule a 15 minutes guide a few days before, just to make sure the software you are using works for them and they can share the screen. Another most important thing is to set the ground rules. For group calls and discussion groups, set ground rules upfront about what the format will be, when to speak, and how to contribute. So you don't get a lot of people trying to talk over each other and everyone has a chance to contribute. You'll also want to set ground rules for any chat spaces you create about what people can or can't use those spaces for. They can quickly devolve into promotions and negativity if you don't have the rules in place. And the most important thing when it comes to event is planning. You should do your best to allow around 3 weeks before publishing the event for planning and preparing your event. At a minimum, it typically takes around 2 weeks to effectively plan an event, but the suggested timeline would be first pick a date for your event, then you must plan your budget and decide on the type of event you would like to host. Once you have decided the type of event, you must decide a virtual platform to host your event. and then determine the content and subject on which you will focus. And last but the most important is to look for speakers. Now, to talk about the question that I often get, how to start and scale a developer community. To answer this, I feel the most critical skill in building a community, no matter the niche, is to provide a space for your audience to share their specialized expertise and insight. Here, two most important things are: first, to choose a right communication platform to bring members together. For example, you can use Slack. In Slack, there is a feature to create channels. Channels bring order and clarity to your work. You can create them for every project, topic, or a team. When there is a channel for everything, you can focus on conversations and work that matters most to you. And now, second most important thing is to remember that your open source community might be more willing to contribute to your project if they feel a sense of inclusiveness. The more you make others feel part of the project, the more enthusiastic and motivated they will be to stick with you through thick and thin. So in case you are wondering what are the best ways to make your open source community feel included, here are some of the ideas. First is listen to their feedback, both the positive as well as the negative. You might find the most useful information in hard to hear feedback. And also make sure you are available on different channels so that users will have an easy time communicating with you. Another thing is you can consider having a developer mailing list that will offer your users ongoing information. Everyone who will subscribe to the list will receive information like your latest blog posts, your public releases, and major announcements. And along with this, setting a code of conduct is very important. Why I say this is because your open source project might bring people together from all over the world. Surely diversity can be incredible, but it can also sometimes lead to major conflicts between your open source community. So your open source community needs to offer a harassment-free experience for all the users, regardless of their age, ethnicity, or gender, or nationality, or sexual identity, or any religion. And I genuinely believe that building a thriving open source community around your project is possible. You can do this by being 100% transparent with your users, building personal relationships with them, making people feel included, and setting a clear code of conduct. Investing time and effort to create an enthusiastic community is, of course, worthwhile. All these open source products you are using every week are fueled by thriving communities like the one you are trying to build. The community you will build will only get you closer to your long-term goals of making the product the best tool on the market. The most crucial thing you need to remember is that your relationship with the open source community. Relationship is a two-way street. Earn members and contributors support and engagement by building an environment in which they will also benefit from the collaboration. So to sum it up, in order to build and scale a vibrant open source community, you need to make it easy for everyone to use your project, clearly explain how to contribute, and build personal relationships. Also, make people feel included and don't forget to set a code of conduct. And to build a successful developer community, you need your target users to engage, contribute proactively, and create a meaningful dialogue. And you can do this by first fostering the creativity. Community members don't want to be walled into box. They don't want to be given a limited set of tasks. Community members want to use their creativity to explore ways to make a project better. They want to express ideas and have an open dialogue around those ideas. The best open source projects have an open creative environment, I would say, but a clear method in which work gets done. Also, you can try to build a simple, clear workflow. Don't gut this creative input. And while doing this, you also need to take care of simplifying and centralizing the team workflow. And while you want to foster creativity, the way in which the team works should be as clear, simple, and as accessible as possible. For many open source projects, they have an online repo on example GitHub or any other platform, an online issue tracker as well, and the code contributions are made via pull request. So they will also have a central place where the project is discussed, such as Slack or any other platform. So design this complete workflow and keep it as simple as possible. Another important thing is to be accessible and engaging. Finally, the tone and way in which you engage with your contributors is enormously important. Be engaging and fun with them, validate great contributions, provide friendly, constructive criticism, and smile both in person and online. It sounds simple, but this is critical. Build an environment people want to be a part of. And why I'm saying this is really important because of two reasons again. First is people like working in more social, fun, and engaging environment. And the second reason is human beings mimic each other and especially their leaders. As such, if you are fun, engaging, they are likely to be so too. And now we all know that open source has become the way to build a software. And this is not only in tech, but we can see this across diverse industries. As companies use open source code to build their own commercial products and services, they also see the strategic value of contributing back to these projects. Some companies have entire open source programs devoted only to contributing to open source communities. Open source is a philosophy and a movement. And what makes open source thrive is the community that grows up around it. As in the proverb, it takes a village to raise a child, it takes a community to create a healthy open source project. All the participants in an open source ecosystem have the opportunity to shape and improve the software. Users can identify features they need and contribute code upstream. Everyone has a chance to make a difference. An open source project has the best chance of growing into a successful ecosystem if the entire community around it takes an active role. This includes everyone from code contributors to users to documentation and content writers and integrators. In the open source world, community is not a construct defined by physical location. It's defined by sharing attitudes, sharing interests, and goals. There are no arbitrary boundaries of company, country, or even language. People from all the backgrounds with diverse perspectives can participate. And yes, this diversity is what makes a healthy community thrive. Diversity of thought, diversity of experience, and diversity of opinions make us stronger by presenting us opportunities to solve problems collaboratively. Encourage your community members to be kind when interacting with each other. Strive to make everyone in the community feel welcome, regardless of their background or how much they contribute. Beyond open source being good for business, I feel that being a part of an open source community is good for you as a human being because it teaches you a lot of things like learning to collaborate, to listen to others, to embrace diversity, and this can make you a better person. Over the time, as more people become part of the community around your open source project, the potential for accelerated problem solving expands even further. When so many people are investing or have been investing in the outcome and in the continued innovation around it, a community-led open source project has a greater chance of success. And I feel a good example to give one such open source community is the Spinnaker open source community. Spinnaker, as we all know, is a free and open source continuous delivery software platform. Spinnaker open source software project was started by Netflix. Now it thrives on the contributions of the broader DevOps community who have adopted it as a continuous delivery tool. So Spinnaker is basically a project which is owned and run by the community through a structure of appointed roles. So that's it from me today. So I hope these learnings are helpful to you. But one thing I'm sure of, community always has and always will be critical to humans. Whatever the format, online or offline, people will get extremely creative in finding ways to connect with each other. So keep building the community, keep experimenting, stay positive for your communities, and just keep showing up. Thanks a lot, Spinnaker Summit, for giving me this wonderful opportunity to talk on such an amazing platform. Kudos to all the event organizers for taking all the efforts and organizing such an informative and insightful conference. Every year, Spinnaker Summit brings together a thriving global community of software collaborators. And what I loved about this year is that Summit is taking real action and building together to solve real problems which our enterprises are facing. It's really heartening to see the work that Spinnaker Summit and its sponsors are doing to enable this. So I would actually like to give a round of applause to all the organizers of Spinnaker Summit. And I'm going to soon have a blog post up with some more resources for community managers on my blog. And as always, I'm happy to talk to people, happy to receive DMs, and I hope to talk to you all soon. So until then, stay healthy and take care.